Hi, this is Caroline Dodd from Club Soda, speaking from the House of Parliament. I'm here today to interview John Bercow, Speaker for the House of Commons, about the Media Trust programme that we're working with. Hopefully we can gain more advice and knowledge to help Club Soda in the future. The Big Society is about local people and local empowerment. How is the Speaker's office helping people to have a greater say over local decisions?
The Speaker's office directly doesn't have a great impact on whether and how people communicate and make decisions or influence decisions that are being made. However, as Speaker, I can do a little bit. I can engage with community organisations, sometimes because they come to Parliament, sometimes because I visit communities, and talk to them about the work of Parliament and explain to them how they can try to influence things, whether it be seeing their local councillor, fixing to meet their local MP, writing to their Member of Parliament, coming along to a committee of the House, or perhaps submitting evidence from themselves or their organisation to a committee of the House that is studying the subject. And I can also draw attention to some of the schemes that we have in Parliament to communicate with local organisations. We have a game we've devised which goes out to schools and which shows schools what an MP does, what the workload's like, what the role is. And also we have workshops. The House of Commons stages workshops around the country, which are done very much with my encouragement, to explain to local groups how they can try to influence the decision-making process as it affects the subject that matters to them.
In your opinion, in this period of economic downturn, how important is it for community groups to become less dependent on funding from the government?
It is very important that they become less dependent on funding the government. It is just inevitable that they are going to have to cope with a tighter financial situation than was the case a few years ago. To be fair, this would be true whoever was in government, whether it was the Conservative Lib Dem coalition as it is, or if it had been the Labour Party. I think there's a general acceptance that times are tougher, and therefore the voluntary and community sector has to think very hard about how it can get more for less, or get a bigger bang for every buck. And insofar as organisations are trying to persuade government or the local council to give them financial support, they've got to show why they particularly deserve either the same help or greater help. And, that's always a challenge. But it would happen. It would be the reality of the matter, whoever was in power. I'm not going to get into the argument about the coalition's policy on cuts versus the opposition's policy on cuts. The real point is, whoever is in power, you've got to show that you deserve public support in the form of more money, or the same money, or a decent amount of money, and you've got to show that you're achieving more for what you've got than you did before.
What are the mechanisms that people can use to show how they're achieving success? Because one of the problems that Club Soda had was, even though this isn't written down here, is trying to show the council what actually we achieved. Because it's hard to show in cold stats and figures exactly what we do. You can't really measure confidence or the feeling of joy that people have, or helping people communicate, which I haven't had before. So what kind of process would you describe to help organisations show to their local councils exactly what they've achieved?
I think you've got to be able to show that in one way or another you make a difference for the better in people's lives and the quality of them. If you can show in a particular voluntary or community organisation that you're getting more people into jobs, that you're causing more people to give up drugs or excessive drinking or smoking, great. If you can't show anything as concrete as that, but you can show that you are giving people who previously had no interest in anything or no capacity to communicate, an interest in something and a capacity to communicate, you are at least showing that they're on the right path, that they might be en route to getting a qualification, they might be about to access training, they might be about to go to college or university. And even if those aren't as hard wins, as hard concrete gains as some of the others that I've mentioned, they do at least represent progress. And I would hope that decision makers would take some account of those sorts of achievements and give your organisation some credit for them.
In your opinion, how can central government help smaller community groups survive when so many groups are competing for the same funding?
Well, it can help by providing the best funding that it can, and in some cases it may be able to help through networks of government advisors by showing organisations ways in which they can perhaps link up with others or share facilities and use resources more efficiently, so that even if they can't get larger funding streams, and even if they have to put up with lower funding streams for a period, they don't fall away altogether, they don't cease to operate. They're able perhaps at least to keep going and to weather the economic storm, in the hope that they'll be in a decent position when we get into healthier economic times.